Hey everybody, well welcome to the Peace with Dementia podcast. And since 2018 we've been recording. This will be our 31st episode, and this is our first video episode that we're recording, and you'll also be able to see us on YouTube if you're just listening to us right now. So welcome. I am very glad to welcome Ken Keene Jr. of the YouTube channel The Journey with ToughKenaMan. Before we get to Ken, this episode is brought to you by my 2019 book, The Peace with Dementia Rosary, Education and Tensions Community. You can find everything about the book at dementiarosary.com. There you will find a 23-page PDF preview of the book, so you'll get a really good idea of what is inside of it. You'll be able to join the email community where you'll get a Monday newsletter every week. And you'll also find out more about my new YouTube Live Rosary and Dementia Q&A that I have each month, which started this month or in January of 2020. So with that, Ken, welcome to the Peace with Dementia podcast. How are you?
Matt, I'm very well, thank you. I just want to say it's an honor to be a part of the first video podcast, and I just wish you much success with this in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm humbled that you're here. You're a YouTube star on the rise with your channel. So I want to make sure that we talk a bit about the mission, talk about what people can find on the channel, and point people to there. So we'll mention the name several times, and I'll certainly have that in the show notes and in the YouTube description.
Thank you.
Oh yes, my pleasure. So tell us about yourself and your dad. Tell us about who he is and where he finds himself right now on the journey.
Okay. Well, like Matt, you had said, I'm Kenneth Keene Jr. and my father is Kenneth Keene Sr. And before mentioning where he's at right now at this stage, I just wanted to say that he was diagnosed back in 2013, just before his 64th birthday, with frontal temporal lobe dementia. And as you know, through dementia, there's many different stages, and there's a lot of changes that take place, and you have to adjust along the way. So, but where he's at now, he's living in a facility. It's a veterans center. It's a residence home in Northeast Philadelphia, which is only about maybe like 10 minutes from my house, which is a great convenience for me and my family. But his stage, where he's at with his frontal temporal lobe dementia, is stages 5, 6, and 7. And in recent months, recent weeks, we've experienced some new changes, and it is heart-wrenching to go through these different stages, because the moment you get comfortable and kind of get laxed, you are then faced with another challenge, another change, and it's like a wound. It just gets ripped open all over again. So it's never easy.
Yeah, it's that up and down. It's the trips back in time. It's the fluctuation of having a good day, then having a bad day. That I hear from so many care partners that makes it more difficult. I think it's because you can't get used to it. There's not a steady. There's usually not a steady plateau that you can be on and get used to. It's just ever changing.
Yes.
So you're definitely not. You and your mom are definitely not alone in seeing that or experiencing that with your father. So tell us about the channel. What's the main theme of the channel and how you reach your dad?
I'll tell you, if I can, I'd like to just touch on the birth of the channel. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just basically inspired by someone else that was broadcasting what they were doing with their loved one that had dementia, and it seemed to be effective, and it was helping not only the people following their channel, but it seemed to be helping them as well. And it was helping me. It was really, it helped me look at things just differently, and what I could possibly do to help make a change, not only with my relationship with my father, but with other people's lives. And that's what I wanted to do. So but the primary, the objective behind the video channel is just basically to try to provide a little bit of information, a different perspective on maybe how you can interact with your loved one with dementia, some entertainment, and just try to have people feel like they're not alone, and uplift their spirits. And if we can do that one video at a time, I really feel like we're doing the right thing, and I look forward to doing the next video. And fast forward from 2017, July of 2017 was when I launched the first video. We are now in 2020, and we're in, I think it's 160 videos in that range. So I tell you, it's when you look back on where you started and what you've accomplished, it feels good. It's validating. That's what it is, because I was unsure in the beginning, and I had my doubts. I was a little reserved, but I felt in my heart that I was doing the right thing. Well, now I'm sure of myself, and I'm certain that I did the right thing, and I'm so happy I did.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I kind of feel the same way when I've done things where it's like you may not know, hey, am I ready to do something? But when your heart is into it, you just have to follow that and then see what comes of it. And typically it's something very positive. And I can affirm that what you're doing right now is impacting people. It's got a beautiful message of all of its 160 videos, of which I've seen several. Now, you contacted me through the podcast because you were in the midst of producing, or in the final stages of producing, a music video that was funded by a grant by a dementia organization in Pennsylvania. Can you tell us about that organization, and then tell us about the video?
Yes, I'm a recipient of the Ginny Gives grant program, which is founded by Dementia Society of America. And the gentleman, Kevin Jameson, who's a friend of mine, runs this organization and does incredible work. It's nationwide, and they provide all kinds of support for the caregivers, tremendous amounts of information, and they're constantly attending different events across the country just to raise awareness and try to raise funds to help find a cure. And there's just so much stuff that these guys are doing, and I'm forever grateful for the grant program that they have. And like I said, I'm a recipient of the grant, and that's what helped fund the music video. So shout out to Kevin Jameson and Dementia Society of America.
Yeah, and you can tell that it was funded because it's beautifully produced. Like, it's professional. You can tell it's not from an iPhone, although those look okay too. But it's the sound is great, the visuals are great. They're following you with your dad. Can you tell us? So when people look at the video, and I want to say it was 7 minutes. Is that right?
A little bit more than that. I think it's upwards of like a little, maybe like over 8.
Okay.
Yeah. We wanted to kind of capture that, like the Michael Jackson Thriller, where you have like a script and then you have the music. So I wanted to kind of like create like a storyline and have the people understand right from the get-go that this is a mental disorder. There's a breakdown between father and son, and it's obviously there's a memory thing going on here. He doesn't know that I'm his son. And after that, of course, the music follows, and we tried to close it out beautifully, and just do our best to touch the people's hearts and bring dementia to the forefront, because this is a growing issue, and doesn't seem to be leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, it's a beautiful example, in my opinion. I mean, this video that you had produced, as well as all the videos, it's a beautiful example of how we can still relate to our loved ones, that they're still there, and even more so, that music can be something that is able to bridge the family with the person living with dementia. In, I won't say every case, but I would say my guess is over 90%. Music can make an impact depending on what stage someone's in. And at the Peace with Dementia podcast, we're big fans of music. I might have 3 podcasts that talk about the impact of music and encourage people, tell them how to do it. Now, we've talked about some of the research of Dr. Linda Gardner, who's out of Stanford, who for over 25 years studied how music can reduce anxiety, agitation, and bring this peace to the person living with dementia. And you're giving a great visual to that research, just in full color and sound for everybody.
Absolutely.
How did you discover that?
The music?
Yeah, how did you find that music did impact your dad? I don't think it was through Stanford or any scientist.
Um, it's just like how you would interact with an infant. I mean, it comes naturally, I think. So that's just a part of. It's like breathing, blinking your eyes. It's almost like an involuntary act. You want to hum, you kind of bop your head.
Yeah.
It just comes naturally. And all my life, even before his diagnosis, he would sing, and so that was always in the back of my mind. And the songs that he would sing, they were with me forever, ever since I was a young child. So it was a very easy transition, and I discovered it just unknowingly, like it just appeared.
Right.
And it made sense. So yeah, and when it happened, I realized it was a tool. And like you were saying, it can take away some of the stress and relax the person with dementia. Because whenever I go through these moments where I'm trying to take my father's coat off or his gloves, he seems to like clench up, and
Right.
there's a resistance there. But then when I start singing in his ear, he looks at me, and all of a sudden that resistance, he surrenders. And now his hands are open. I can take his gloves off. He's willing to take his coat off, and he becomes very cooperative. So the music is the key.
So in addition to his cooperation, when you sing or put on music, what other response and reaction? And I've seen it because I've watched your videos. But for those who haven't seen it, who we want to direct that way to your channel, The Journey with ToughKenaMan, what will we see your dad? How will we see your dad respond in the videos?
It's usually through a smile. I mean, the moment you start to either sing a song or hum a tune, he looks immediately, and that smile comes across his face, and he's very receptive to it. It's almost instantaneous. So yeah, that's my support system, the music, because it's a tool. It's in my arsenal. But yeah, it's a form of communication for sure, and that's basically it. It's his expression. It comes over his face immediately, and he loves it. And it's all forms of music. Before, I didn't know that. Well, before he had a select choice of music, but now it's like anything with like a drum beat, with a horn, any lyric, anything. He's just like he's into it. Yeah.
So I was just watching a video that you produced 2 days ago. So this would have been, let's see, I guess February 3rd. And in several of the videos, he says, "Good to see you."
Yes.
Which I love. How does that feel when he recognizes you? Because lots of people, their loved one either won't, or at least most of the time doesn't. How does it feel when your dad says, "Good to see you"?
Well, to me, he's saying something in so many words, but in only one sentence. Like he's saying, there's so much more that I think he's feeling that he would like to say, but he can't. But it comes out in just those few words.
Yeah.
So I get it, and that really does resonate with me. And I know if he says it continuously, it's like but that's all he can say. There's so much more he would love to say, but that's all you're going to hear. So don't get annoyed with it. You can't. Because he might want to say something that has absolutely nothing to do with, "Oh, it's great to see you," but it might be something else that's expressing his appreciation of your presence. But the way he does it is just in those few little, those few words. And so I've wrapped my head around that, and I'm able to accept that. So if you want to say it to me 100 times in 1 hour, I would think that I can handle that.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll say it that many times, but I love it. I really do. I love it, and it's another thing that helps reassure that I'm doing the right thing, and it impacts the relationship that we have, for the better. So I love it. It's no different than him smiling. So those things, they're like, they're so important.
Yeah. I enjoy when he says it, because that's the sense that I get, is that there's so much behind that one sentence that he wants to say. Just, I mean, it's it's the tip of the iceberg when the mass of the glacier is below, the water line. It's such a positive thing, and you can tell he has other things that he wants to express in his love and everything. So it's really nice to hear that. And I've found that with others that I know that have FTD. It's one to three phrases that they know, and they will. That's how they'll communicate. It may not be what they're communicating, what they're trying to do, but that's what's coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I noticed recently it seems that he's laughing even harder. So I don't know if that's because there's a pain inside, not a physical pain, but there's something that you're trying to get out, and you can't convey because you're just so limited. And this dementia has a stranglehold on him, and coming out with that laughter or continuously saying the same sentence over and over. There's so much more I think that he's trying to get out, but just doesn't know how to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like our job to kind of look past what's at the surface and go deeper, so you have a better understanding. And that'll help you, I think, as a caregiver, and you'll be more compassionate and be able to communicate in creative ways. So you have to be very innovative to, I think, have that communication and connection with that person, so that you can have something that's sustainable and it doesn't dry up and it doesn't get monotonous and boring and frustrating. So I try to look past what I'm dealing with that's at the surface, because there's so much more to it. And you get it, Matt. You do. Mm-hmm. I can tell.
Yeah. So in addition to the music, what drives you? Because there are certainly family members out there that might be listening, and they're avoiding the situation. Whether it's out of fear, anxiety, denial. You've grasped this opportunity to continue and even enhance the relationship that you have with your father. What do you think drives you to do everything between the music and the videos and all that?
Well, I think some of it's God-given. I think some of it is your personal experience. I think it's some of the adversities we've gone through, growing up, the different challenges, because you mold yourself. Whether you know it or not, you're being molded into a certain type of individual. And I think that has a lot to do with whether you're going to be acknowledging your loved one or not, or in their life, or to what degree. Yeah, and of course there's schedules, their lifestyles, things get in the way. I'm going through things like that myself now. There's responsibilities, you have obligations, and our vision gets blurred a little bit. So we lose focus, and it's not until later, and unfortunately sometimes when it's too late, that we realize that we missed out on an opportunity, and that's when we're, I think, living with some guilt and a little bit of pain. And so life's funny. I mean, we're all constantly learning, and I think that's pretty much what it is. So, yep.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned guilt, because the group of people who see it happening and they're staying away. It's likely that they will regret that later. So it's kind of like you pick what's going to be most uncomfortable. Is it addressing the issue and being in your loved one's life and trying to improve their quality of life, and going through picking up this cross rather than denying it and doing something special for them, or later on when you can't do anything about it, when your loved one has passed away and you can't go back. So it's kind of like it's going to be uncomfortable either way. And I, my perspective is, it sounds like it's the same as yours, is that, you pick up the cross now and you go through this and you get so much back, and you avoid most or all of that regret and guilt later. So I just really encourage people to do that. It's not easy. No one's saying it's easy.
Yeah, and I think depending on the individual and the type of relationship they have with the person that has dementia, It's hard. I mean, it's hard to accept. Some people, like I've heard people, like if you go to prison, oh, I couldn't stand to see you locked up in a cage, so they don't even go.
Right.
So it's kind of like I can't stand to see the man who I knew that could do everything. Now he can barely even wipe his own backside. You know, it's very hard for people to accept. Why it's that way, I don't know exactly, but I don't know. I really think it's about timing. Different times in people's lives will bring out certain attributes that will allow them to perform a certain way. So if you're in your 20s, you might not be ready to perform at this level. It's not until you're in your 40s that you're able to do it. So timing has a lot to do with it as well, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. Life situation. If you're busy raising children, that's gonna take a lot of your time and take you away from caring for a parent, or if you're still working and you're caring for a spouse. Yeah, so it's timing, it's situation.
And there's got to be something in your life, I think, that forces you to go internal. And when you start doing that more and not so external, you start to discover who you are and what it is that you really want as a person, as a human being, from not just yourself, but from other people as well. And I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to love. It's just how you treat one another, and try to be more compassionate and caring and understanding towards another person's needs and what maybe they're going through, because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but internally, if you can find that core of who you are, you'll discover all kinds of gems, and you'll you'll really start to develop as a person and be content in your own skin. And that just doesn't come overnight. It comes with years of challenges and adversities, you know. And I think these are some of the most beautiful learning lessons of life. And sometimes I think people just focus on the negative when actually there's a positive that can come from that, which will help you become stronger and develop thicker skin and be able to do these magical things that you normally wouldn't if you never went through the adversity.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Life's a lesson, man, and we're always learning.
That's the journey, right? Just like your journey and everybody else's journey. I found the same. So I interviewed my mom on a podcast episode. I can't remember which one it was, but it's maybe 27, 28. And in that, she recounts the journey that she was on. So I was in high school, so I wasn't able to be of much help. And my grandfather was in a veterans facility and everything, but she still had struggles, kind of like, she struggled with her emotions and with being an advocate and all these things. So, and something that came out of that interview was how much she grew from that. And if she hadn't, taken up that cross, taken up that challenge, life would not have been as interesting. She would not have developed and gained sort of that reservoir of strength that she uses today, for everyday life. It's something that prepares us for the rest of the rest of our lives. And it's a blessing that you're here today to share it, and it's a blessing that you have your YouTube channel to share it with thousands of others. So
yeah, thank you.
I appreciate that.
And same to you. You have your platform, and we have the same goal in mind, and it's great.
Yep. So tell us about you. We've been talking about this journey, the channel, and I'm assuming this is not what you do professionally. Could you tell us more about you?
What I do, it's actually a perfect fit for me and my personality. I'm a personal trainer, and I've been training since the age of 14, working out with weights. I basically live in a gym. And how that all started, although I wasn't personal training when I was 14, but that's what I do now, and I've been doing that for a number of years. It's not until recently that I really had taken it serious and made it my full-time occupation. So yeah, I've got a military background. I'm a veteran myself.
Wow.
I was in the Air Force. I've been all over the world, which I think the military is one of those things in my life that kind of helped me sharpen my tools. my discipline, my appreciation for other people and cultures, and understanding where it was that my father was once, because he was in the army and he was deployed himself. My uncle, my grandfathers, so and just our military in general. I have a whole new appreciation and understanding just how lucky we are to be living in this country, and the appreciation for their sacrifices. So.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm proud. I would consider myself a patriot. But the personal training, I really love what I do because it's all about helping people help themselves
Hmm.
and seeing the changes take place before your eyes. And it's just not physically, it's emotionally too and mentally. So I work off intuition. So that's even how I train myself. I try to be intuitive. I don't walk into a gym planning my workout ahead of time because it's always changing. It's like the
Hmm.
body, it's a forever changing organism, so you have to keep it guessing, even while working out. So
Hmm.
yeah, this is not just a passion of mine. This is my medicine, and yeah, this is what's keeping me, I think, young and keeping the energy nice and high, and I'm able to do what I do, even with my father and other things in my life.
Hmm. I want to close with giving you an opportunity to share some advice. But before I ask you to do that, is there anything that you wanted to tell us about the channel or any of your projects that I didn't get to ask you about?
Uh, yeah, we touched on Dementia Society of America,
Hmm.
and I do have some plans for the future. I want to try to bring a clothing item line or clothing line out to the public and share with people things that are symbolic, some very important phrases or quotes, and have this displayed on T-shirts, sweatshirts, just really cool clothing items. And what I want to do with Dementia Society of America is we're going to take a percentage of the proceeds and give that to their Ginny Gives program and whichever other programs that are available with them, and continue raising awareness and try to help find a cure and do something that's positive, from this dementia, this experience that I had with my father, to
Hmm.
give back and continue on with raising awareness. But that's upcoming. I'm hoping that we'll have a store online available in the next month or so.
Hmm.
I've got a whole bunch of designs already uh, ready to go, and I have a great company that's with me right now. It's going to be taking care. It's going to take care of all the printing and the shipping and
Hmm.
filling of the orders. So I've been doing a lot of stuff in the background, just trying to get things ready for this spring. And as for the channel, I mean, we put out a video every 2 weeks, and it's just usually me and my father just having a moment in the car or wherever we're at, and a lot of it has to do with music. And sometimes it'll just be me alone, just talking about life or things in general,
Hmm.
just that I know will resonate with people, and it will hopefully make an impact on them. And I don't know, that's about it. I mean, I have some other podcast interviews coming up, and other little projects that I'm trying to collaborate with people on, and but it's about raising awareness and trying to bring hope and have people feel like they're not alone. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, we'll follow up. We'll follow up on those projects as they come out. Just keep in touch, and we'll do what we can to promote all those different the clothing line, and everything else. So
that's great.
before the advice, I wanted to ask you about the Rosary, since this is sponsored by the Peace with Dementia Rosary book.
Mhm.
You mentioned that at the VA facility they'll say a Rosary, and your mom will go there and say that with him. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I believe it's a weekly rosary that my mom will attend. It's a nice small gathering of husbands and wives who have a loved one there at the residence center
Hmm.
that's suffering with dementia or even just other ailments or diseases. But I think it's once a week they get together and they say the rosary. And sometimes my father's present alongside my mother. And he's able to sit there because I know it is a little bit of a time. There's a little bit of time when you're doing the rosary. And my dad, he seems to be very calm and he sits through it, through most of it. Whereas before, I think he would get a little restless, and it would be kind of tough. But yeah, my mother finds a lot of strength from the Rosary. She believes in prayer, and she's been that way all her life. And I'm happy she utilizes that, because I think it's something that most people, if not everyone, we should be considering it, because it is definitely something that I think will bring that strength that you need to get through these hard times. And it's been working for my mother, so it's powerful. It's important.
Yep, great. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to close out, any parting advice, one or two of your favorite things that you want people to take away from this interview?
Try to go inside. Try to learn more about yourself, because if you learn more about yourself, you can then, I think, be open to learning more about your loved one. It's kind of like loving yourself. Well, you can't love someone unless you love yourself. Well, think of it like that. You learn more about yourself, go internal, then externally you'll be able to, I think, have the tools necessary to then deal with whatever situations are taking place at that moment, and not be so emotional and flying off the handle. And I think what comes with that is patience. You will start to develop patience, which is, I think, a key tool for dealing with loved ones with dementia. And try to have fun with the music. If you find yourself in stressful situations, or your loved one is being very rebellious, try to neutralize the situation by incorporating the music. And I think you'll find that it may be a helpful tool. So it works for me, and it just might work for you as well, those at home.
Yeah, awesome, great advice. All right, so we're gonna have all your contact information, at least for the YouTube channel. Any other links that you want will be in the show notes, and also in the YouTube description. So if y'all want to get in touch with Ken, and certainly subscribe to his channel as well as this one, so we can get this out to more people, so Ken can inspire many other care partners out there, and maybe even inspire them to start their own YouTube channels and reaching out in their special way.
Sounds good.
Until next time, this is Matt Estrad and Ken Keene Jr., who's with the Journey with ToughKenaMan on YouTube, wishing you and all persons living with dementia to have peace with dementia. Bye for now.